Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Barton.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, how would you feel if a very critical component of your work, your life, your business was incredibly disorganized, decentralized,
Oh, man.
scattered across multiple locations, files on computers all different places, multiple people that kind of did a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but didn't have everything organized?
That kind of sounds like hellscape right now.
People doing redundant work.
Yeah, not good.
That doesn't sound good to you?
No, we need help immediately.
And yet, oddly enough, that's what a lot of businesses and enterprises are facing when it comes to their barcode labeling files and their system and their management for managing all these files and all these barcodes that they're going to use on multiple products and boxes and whatnot. Scattered over.
It's a world of chaos, is what you're saying.
It is.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was really a thing because this isn't something I've ever been in before until I was kind of working with our guests today and their company, Seagull Scientific and BarTender.
Yep.
Learned a lot about how that management of these printing labels or whatever becomes so important to helping enterprises run efficiently.
There you go.
So that's kind of our topic today.
So you got all this nice digital printing, but if you're not efficient with it, what good is it?
Like, what good is it if you have 5 files for a certain type of barcode on your computer and somebody in another building has another 5 files and you can't reach them and you got an urgent print, whatever.
Yeah, no good.
Sounds like a nightmare. So we've got Matt Brine joining us today from Seagull Scientific. We're going to talk a little bit about this effective label print management.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what that means, really. How do they define that? BarTender is obviously like the premier product.
Absolutely.
In this.
Gold standard.
It's definitely the go-to. We're going to talk about how end users typically get this stuff wrong, what it does to them when they get it wrong. I think we've kind of alluded to that already, but we'll explain deeper what happens to your business when you're disorganized like this. What industries benefit the most? Maybe some that people don't normally think about. And people mostly think supply chain probably with this, but there are plenty of other businesses and industries that can benefit from effective label print management.
Gotcha.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the new BarTender product that's on the way and what to expect out of that. So.
They got some new stuff coming out.
Yeah, they always have a new version every year. They're staying on top of the needs of the customer.
Good stuff today.
Exactly. All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting. With us, it's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today is Matt Brine. Matt is the VP of Global Sales for Seagull Scientific. Matt, thank you so much for being on with us today.
Yes, sir.
We found out when we got on that you're out on the West Coast, and it's early morning for you. You're doing stuff earlier than you normally would, so we appreciate that. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your day-to-day role at Seagull, and how did you get into this business?
Sure. Well, as you said, I'm Matt Brine, and I run global sales for Seagull Scientific. And most people know us for BarTender, right? And most people know us for the slogan, everyone loves their bartender. And you're absolutely right. It's early in the morning, but I want you to know, and I want our partners to know who are listening, and all our customers out there in the customer world, that I'm actually up much earlier. My dog gets me up no later than 5:30 in the morning in winter, because that's when the heating kicks in. And he knows when the heat kicks in, it's time to get up, right? So we've been up, and the first thing I normally do is get up and do a few emails, take the dog for a walk. But my wife is away right now. So the worst thing that can happen is Amazon comes to my door because the dog is going to bark like crazy. So we just hope that Amazon is a bit slow right now.
Well, tell us a little more about yourself, your day-to-day role.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved with Seagull for 4 years, right? And I came to Seagull after many years in the performance improvement or business improvement businesses, right? I've worked for some of the largest content and document management companies in the world. I've been a consultant, and I've done a lot in the healthcare information exchange area. So everything I've been doing, even though I haven't thought about it when I first started, was always about helping people become more efficient, become more effective, become better at what they do, make more money, reduce their costs, all those types of things. And what attracted me to Seagull was not only the large customer base, but I've been involved in reseller communities for many, many years. I am a partner first salesperson. So Seagull, 99.99+% of our business is through the channel. And so that's one of the reasons why I got attracted. Two, the second opportunity, the opportunity here is phenomenal. You talk about the inefficiencies, you talk about the ineffectiveness, labeling errors. There's lots of improvements we can make, whether it be in the healthcare setting, whether it be in the warehouse, whether it be in manufacturing, lots of improvements. And what I find amazing is when I talk to partners and customers, they see lots of opportunity for us.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into some of that here today. I think. Yeah.
I love that you came out of this, this performance improvement and this process improvement kind of background, because that is very much what we're talking about here.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
this idea
100%.
Of there's some low hanging fruit when it comes to sales with your customers, that if you're not already out there talking to them about this, almost everybody's going to have some sort of need for this. If they're not doing it already,
oh man, I'm telling
there
you,
is going to be a tangible need. So let's get into this idea of this, effective label print management. First of all, Matt, what does that mean to you? Like, what does it mean to you and to Seagull to say, hey, we're going out to manage our label print and make it effective and make it useful for our enterprise? What does that actually mean?
Great question. We need to remember that BarTender is used for very small customers. Just imagine a nursery that's got 7 or 8 employees, right? Okay, up to some of the largest healthcare manufacturing companies in the world. In actual fact, the Gartner supply chain, every one of the Gartner top 25 supply chain use BarTender. So it's very small to very big. And nearly every business that you can think of has a need for labels. So labels are everywhere, right? It's not just on the packaging. It's not just on what comes into the door. Think of e-commerce that's happened in the last 2 or 3 years, the explosion there, the startups, but the warehouse, the manufacturing facilities, right? Just imagine in the concept of a big box comes in with different supplies, right? Where does that box go? Wouldn't it be better off if that box already had some of your labeling on there and everything was labeled inside? So from a perspective of, what does it label print management means? It means helping customers, right, be more effective in managing their inventories, becoming more effective in their manufacturing processes, right? And ultimately, from a label print management perspective, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, it's about creating, managing, and printing labels, RFID tags, cards, and even documents more effectively and more efficiently than people are doing today. So helping people do their jobs better.
That's it. And when you start to look at some of the statistics around print, right, and label print, you see some of the demand coming in, coming from things like, end users having a need to do short run production. That ranks as one of the highest things that the end users are coming to resellers and asking for, is that ability to do short run productions, the ability to personalize. We've talked a lot about, personalization, and you're starting to see that in the marketplace. I agree with you, Matt. I mean, labels are everywhere now, right? I mean, whether it's your delivery from the restaurant, whether it's a manufacturer that's kind of getting into the game now a little bit, not just wanting to put on that white label with black ink, and maybe they want it to be a little bit sexier with their logo on it, stuff like that, or even personalizing that along the way. When you look at, again, some of the statistics around it, being able to prototype or do smaller runs of labels, you're seeing a lot more demand for that. So when you do that, you have more people sometimes involved. You've got the marketing team involved. You got operations involved. Managing that print ecosystem, even within the 4 walls of a company. And I liked where you started there, Matt, with the small nursery. They got 6, 7 employees, but I bet you one of them kind of knows graphics. Another one of them might know, right? And so but now files are everywhere, type of a thing. So, but anyway, you absolutely, the demand is there for the labels. Now it's marrying that up with making that an efficient process.
And we've talked about this before too, with the whole idea of the print on demand, like you mentioned, like customized. That there's all these third party companies that will help you out with print services, but typically there's all kinds of hangups that come with that. It might be like some minimum quantity orders, you know, so like, hey, you know, we can make this custom label for you, but you have to order 100. In reality, you only need 70, you know, because this is a one-time thing that you
Especially
only need
if it's going to be personalized, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it might be that's wasted labels that you don't actually need.
100%.
Or to, you know, if there's something where there's variables involved that change depending on what the product is and where it came from and where it's going, and that stuff can just be a headache to create like multiple labels over and over and over again for all these different scenarios. So
can I give you a local example of that? The Houday beer, right? So the Bengals are right in the Super Bowl, and we've got a local brewer called Hudapole.
Yep.
And way back in the day when the Bengals 33 years ago they came out with Houday beer, which is the slogan for the Bengals. Well, they ran out the other day, right? They were creating the labeling, but they didn't have enough. So anyway, they had to fire up the label machine again and make it. But there's a really perfect example, a local brewery house needing on-demand, you know, capabilities, right? They weren't going to buy hundreds of thousands of labels. They made like a run of 3,000, sold out instantly. Now they got to make some more kind of. So anyway,
Well, and Matt, let's you know, kind of dive a little further then into some of these issues here. So, you know, where do users typically go wrong when they're figuring out how to manage their organizational labeling, even the ones that kind of understand like, hey, we need to have a process in place, but they're still probably not as good at it as they should be. What are the pain points that you come across and talk to when it comes to, you know, this idea of, hey, we need to manage our labeling, we need to control who has it, who has access to it, what we do and don't do with it, all these files that are out here. What are those pain points?
Sure. I want to categorize the pain points into two areas. Let's go back to that nursery example, right? That's a customer who knows that they need to print some labels to put on a little tag, to put on next to the plant that's got a barcode on it. So when they go to scan, it's got a price, right? Beautiful example. And what's happening is they know they need that, or their printer is broken, and a partner comes along and says, hey, we're going to sell you this beautiful little printer that's going to meet your needs, right? What we haven't thought through there is, how do I easily design the label? How do I easily generate the barcode? How do I ensure that information that I want on the pricings comes from a CSV file? Simple need, right? And the error that they make is, I've got the printer, but what do you do with the printer, right? So just imagine if you sold a printer, how do you actually effectively create that very first basic simple label? So that's the first bit of issue is, and particularly for low volume users, not realizing that they've got to work out how they print a label. On the medium to larger enterprises, it's not understanding or fully discussing the scope. And what I mean by that is, you've got a particular need. That's what you have your IT, your project team, they have a real project going on. Maybe it's a new warehouse being set up. Maybe it's an expansion. They're buying 5 or 10 more printers as a starting point, and they know they need some sort of label management software. And so what they don't do is they don't think through, what's the next step 12 months from now? What's the 18 months from now? And we find a lot of people will look at a cheaper alternative in the marketplace, or even say, I can do something in Microsoft Word, you know, or use Crystal Reports. And then they get themselves into trouble in that next step, right? So it's really around the planning, but it's also not understanding the impact of label errors. You know, a lot of people out there will use something like a Crystal Reports and not understand that when it creates your barcode image, it's not clear. And so that leads to reading errors of the barcode, right? So it's just not understanding the benefits of a true label management system. And there's multiple ones out of there. I prefer that it's BarTender, right? So it's just ensuring that people understand that they need to think a bit further, but they also need to realize they need something either simple and easy to use, or something that's going to build with them for the future. And just one last thing, as you get bigger, you start to have more labels, right? And one of the issues in labels is, you talked about this very early, is label management. If I've got one label that's easy to manage, then I've got 5. Now I've got 10 different labels, right? And they might all be subsets of labels. Then you've got 50, and then you've got 100. And we see packaging examples where some things which are being shipped, the label must be horizontal. On that same package going to a different state, it must be vertical, right? So we have in BarTender a concept called intelligent templates. Basically, it creates your master template, and using AI, artificial intelligence within our system, using our computer code and the information that you have, we can ensure that every time you're printing, you're using the correct label. As you think of customers who expand outside of geographies, those labels might change from inches to millimeters. They might need something moved. So it allows you to have a master template concept with then sub-templates underneath, like subfolders. So it gives you a great way to manage your files or your templates and to ensure that you're printing the right time, so less label errors.
That's really good. There's a couple things in there. When you think about it, when you're selling into an organization that maybe has made the decision to start labeling, and start using barcode technology for asset management and things like that, you typically have a lot of operations people who are not in the mindset of managing digital assets, which labels tend to be. I love where you're going there, Matt. Like coming out of the gate, okay, sure. We set up the first template, we printed our first label, we got our first barcode. Wonderful. Everything worked great.
Right.
Now, fast forward 12 months, 20, 30, 100 different labels have been created now because there's different iterations and things of that nature. How do we manage that? Again, operations just typically isn't in that. So you need a system to do that. And as solutions integrators, you really need to have that conversation around that, because your third point there is absolutely right. What you want to try to do here is thwart the impact of labeling errors. I mean, what a nightmare is to set something up, maybe not using something like a BarTender, maybe a Crystal Reports, only to, you're helping set, portions of that solution up, only to have it fail because the imagery coming out of the system is not good enough. I mean, what a nightmare, right? And now they're shipping products out that nobody can read the barcode on. It's like, oh my gosh, what did we just do?
Not meeting specs or regulations.
Right.
Well, this also comes back to a fundamental concept that we talk about a lot with our VARs and with sales in general, and this idea of don't just think about the now when you're selling.
Yeah, right.
And help your customers not just think about the now also. Think about the future. Think about what's coming down the road. And Matt, you nailed it on the head when you mentioned this idea of like, hey, sure, you've only got 5 barcodes, 5 different types of labels to manage right now. But what about, 3 years from now when you have 100? Because ideally, they're going to want to grow their business. They're going to want to expand. And if they're doing that, that should mean there's more of this stuff down the road. And
Absolutely.
I think it's on us as salespeople, it's on us as marketing, for the VARs to go out to their customers and say, hey, I know you think you've got a plan in place right now, but what are your plans for this company? Where do you expect to go? And if they're telling you, well, we expect to grow and get bigger and open up more stores,
absolutely.
Well, isn't that going to mean more X, Y, Z, and therefore you're going to need a different process than what you've got right now,
or different labeling, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Once they get in tune with the one label printer that they've gotten, let's do a slightly larger format. Now you've got multiple printers, multiple templates, stuff like that, right? Starts getting into a little bit of a management nightmare.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Matt, so then let's talk about some of the industries. We've kind of touched on a few, everything from the small little nursery breweries up to the biggest corporations in supply chain around the world. But, what industries do you think really benefit the most from effective management of their label printing? And are there any industries that we don't expect, like ones where maybe our VARs are working with them on a regular basis in other aspects and with other projects and don't realize like, hey, I should be talking to them about their label management also?
Yeah. It's really interesting because we think of industries as verticals, right? And what we need to do as a starting point is think of the horizontals across many verticals. And so I'll say there's 3 key areas that go across any vertical, basically. There's obviously manufacturing, and manufacturing can mean different things to different people. We are in software, but we still have a manufacturing, right? And we have to label printers when they come in, we test and so forth. There is the warehouse, right? And we all know that's a big opportunity. And then transportation and logistics. I was recently at Zebra SKO, and I'm glad that they've learned from BarTender, because I keep telling our partners and our salespeople the 3 things you need to worry about are manufacturing, warehouse, transportation, and logistics. And they're the 3 that around the core that Zebra put up, right? But if you look at the verticals, Okay, we're in every vertical. Whether you think of auto supplies, whether you think of third-party logistics providers, when you think of fast-moving consumer goods, the FMCG market, whether you think of healthcare, which is hospitals looking after their PPE, looking after their inventories, looking after their assets, whether you think of medical device companies, pharmaceutical, lots and lots of industries. I think that the last part of your question was, where have we not thought through well enough? And I had an educational experience with a reseller a couple of years ago, and they were talking about e-commerce. And they were absolutely right. These people who are starting these new e-commerce companies, right? And they're all starting up all the time, right? And they've got a great idea. They want to sell some new pet food, or they want to do this, or they want to do that, right? And they've got, they're worried about the clothes that they're selling or whatever. They really know nothing or very little about warehouse, right? So they start thinking about warehouse. And if they're really big and they've got a lot of funding, then they're going with a major ERP vendor and a WMS system. They're getting, big warehouses, etc. But there's a lot of small people who are starting up from home selling, and we sell them a printer or two printers, and then they slowly build up. And think of all the great success stories. There's a toilet paper company here in Seattle that uses bamboo fibers for toilet paper. It seems a bit rough to me, but it's a big growing market. Jeff Bezos has just invested. Their warehouse is expanding, right? So lots of opportunity, and we need to think of these people when they're thinking, oh, I got to do labeling. I got to put something on. I got to label my shelves. I've got to label the stuff that I'm selling. I might need to use a concept called Amazon transparency, which is anti-counterfeiting if they're selling through Amazon, right? All supported by BarTender. We need to realize that these people need help, right? And I always talk about, it's not about selling a product. It's about selling the right product, right? It's not about selling a solution. It's about selling the right solution. It's not about the short-term sale today to the customer. It's about building long-term customer value. And so if you think of these industries such as this e-commerce or people shipping from home, or even the restaurants that are doing self-shipping, etc., or putting labels on, they need help. And we need to provide a bit of assistance with them to be the expert, so to speak, to help them be more successful. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in e-commerce. It's going to continue to grow. It's a big focus. But I think of e-commerce being the warehouse, transportation, and logistics, but it being a big area. And you can say, well, that's under retail. But let's not get confused with what retail can mean, because if you go to a big Kroger, that could be retail for them is about scanners and things, right? And when we're thinking of labels, right, we're thinking about where we can help them. I will say that some of the label advancements that are occurring using 2D barcodes, etc., very exciting. And obviously, we're right there. We've been with Gs1 with Digital Link from the very beginning. Gs1 actually worked with us. We demoed the technology. What's happening with Gs1 and Digital Link and the tracking, we're now starting to see some of the big players in the industry talking about Digital Link. So very exciting, because this Digital Link concept, like it is the Amazon counterfeiting, if you're a small e-commerce provider, perhaps you want to talk a bit about where the goods came from, how you sustain them. Perhaps that little farm in Colombia where you source the coffee from, or whatever it is, right? You can't put all that on your packaging and your labeling, but you can individualize the website, and people can link. I was actually in Italy on vacation, enjoying myself, and had an opportunity to educate a wine manufacturer, wine producer, because we just happened to be in their kitchen. My wife had set up a cooking class for my family, and the owner came in and started talking about their business. Now, we were drinking a wine that was rated the number 20th wine in the world by Wine Spectator, just came out, right, from this vineyard. And we were talking about, I explained what I did. And she was going, yeah, marketing's really important to us. I'm responsible for that globally. We've got distributors in Seattle, all over the world. And she goes, we have to do something because our 2,000 acres of wine is all green, no pesticides, no nothing. And we don't market that. And I said, what you really need to do is you've got that little barcode, that 2D barcode you've got there. You don't just want that to go to your website. You want that to go to your specific page on your website to talk about put the individual pictures of where that came from, right? Those little things. And she said, you're absolutely right. This is the marketing we need to do. And the reason why she said this, and the reason why we had this discussion, she was talking about the next generation of wine buyers, those in their 20s and 30s, who all use their phones, right? Okay. Scan and use. That's the opportunity, etc., is to help these companies realize what they need to be doing to growing their markets, right, and being more successful.
Yeah, I agree with that, Matt, and I'm going to kind of keep piling on the sense of the label itself, because, and I agree with you, e-commerce is one of those areas where you're going to see continued growth in the use of labeling, but the education needs to be there. Meaning, I can imagine the world where you've got like somebody out of their home wants to start doing e-commerce, like candle making, right? We actually have an employee at BlueStar that does candle making on the side and trying to grow through e-commerce and stuff like that. Well, you can't print, like when you package it up and you print a label, like a mail label, and you put that on there as part of your labeling. They don't understand that there's humidity, there's temperature issues. I mean, once it leaves the sanctity of the room that you're creating it in, it goes out into the world, and the world ain't pretty, right? It's got rain, it's got snow, it's got high temperatures, low temperatures, and so they just don't understand, the impact. I mean, now, the sad story of the candle, and then the label just falls off into the truck or whatever, right? So you need to have that kind of a conversation around it, and it's absolutely imperative for us to do that, as solution integrators.
And I think to both of your point too, this whole idea of this new like niche e-commerce platforms that are popping up, and all these companies that, they want to spout like, well, we do this and it's sustainable that, and it comes from here and it does that. And because the idea is if they're popping up and they're doing this stuff, they're all differentiating in some way. But again, if you're not expressing that differentiation somehow, if you're not marketing that differentiation, and I know people think when we talk about marketing, they're like, oh, advertising and emails and all that stuff. We're like, no, sometimes your marketing can literally be just what is printed on your product. The label on your product can do a lot of marketing lift for you.
Absolutely.
As Matt pointed out, whether it's, QR codes that are linking to your website, the design and the color of it. And again, if your niche is all about like sustainability and locally sourced and all that type of stuff, and people want that information, that's why you talk about it, because people want that info. You've got to be expressing that info. And again, that's where this database of potential barcodes and all these different labels start expanding exponentially when you start expanding your business, and you've got to be able to keep up with that.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, can we go down the path of the Gs1 Digital Link a little bit here, a little sidebar off to the side, Matt? Can you talk to us a little bit about, I mean, I know it's been around for a while, right? That whole technology, but how are you starting to see it utilized more and more in the marketplace? I mean, is it obviously there's a healthcare, right? In healthcare, there's an impact of using Gs1 Digital Links, but you were just referencing the fact that maybe you're starting to see it on the consumer side as well. Where are some opportunities there? What you seeing?
Great. GS1 is used all around the world as a standard, right? Digital Link's been around for a couple of years, but it's just starting to get more prominence. The major printer manufacturers are now starting to talk about it. So that means marketing efforts, more broad education's going about it. Here's where I see the opportunity. Here's where we see. We have just been working on a project in Australia. It's really exciting. They want to better track the freight cars on trains, right? And to better understand what's in there, right? And so obviously one way of doing that is having a label goes on every time and a barcode, and using Gs1 Digital Link, they're able to have a specific web page for that car. So it's all about tracking, right? And so that's really important. On the consumer side, people are looking at it for exactly what we talked about. For example, food packaging. There are, I mentioned my dog earlier. There are lots of companies that say your dog needs special food, right? And one of the things that they do is they actually have 20 different formulas in the back warehouse, okay, or 30 or 40. And they get some information from the website from you, right? And they say, here's the special food that we've created for your dog, right? And it's one of these 20 or 30 varieties. There's not someone saying a bit of this and a bit of that. But when that package has to be sent out and it's probably frozen, right? You need to put a label on there. And people want to know that that package is for them. So, Dean, you talked very early on about personalization. Personalization is not just the 1,000 beer cans. And by the way, we do beer cans with these small vendors, etc. What is important is they're looking for the name of the dog, perhaps even a little picture of the dog, etc. So the personalization. And you can't fit all of that on a label because here's what's happening. That food is frozen. It's not flat, right? So you can't easily put a big, huge set of information onto something that's frozen and all wrinkly, etc. So they're looking for something special that you put onto that package that then you can look at, and you've got a little website with your dog's picture on there, right? The special food plan, how to do that, give us your feedback, that type of thing. That's reality today. That's what I think is extremely exciting, is what is really happening with personalization. And it's Gs1 Digital Link is part of that, but personalization might be just on every specific label. There's something there. Now, I want to talk about the marijuana business, right? Because this is starting to grow, whether it be medical marijuana or individual cannabis use, right? Think of that. People want to know where the buds came from. It's not just a nice little, think of, I'm not an expert in marijuana, I will tell you that, but I understand it comes in in my retail store, it comes in a very small package, right? So you can't put much information onto that package. But you want to, if you're a marijuana connoisseur, a cannabis connoisseur, want to know the details, the history, and everything. And so that's where Digital Link can really assist, is providing that website for you to go to. So people, and that differentiates the cannabis stores, right? Because people want to know about the quality and a lot of things. You know, in Seattle, there's a grower that is a minority industry grower, right? How many minority industry growers are there in the US in cannabis? So if that's something that's important to you, you can make sure you go there, you're getting that cannabis from that supplier. As an example, I apologize for going down the cannabis area.
No, that's a good one, because it can be used in traceability, correct? The digital link, aspect of it, where to...
Digital, yeah. Sorry, traceability, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's big, not just in the cannabis space, obviously in the food space, those types of things. That's what I was kind of thinking, that you're going to start to see a lot of run with that technology in that space.
I was gonna mention the cannabis industry also, because I did a campaign around labeling for cannabis, and one of the things I found out is, because there's no federal, formal federal regulation yet, every single state has different subsets of information that they expect to be on labels.
Really?
So, if you're labeling something that is going to a certain place to be sold in a dispensary or store, whatever it is, every single state has different ideas of what's supposed to be on that label. There's I found a website that literally lists them all, and every state is different. Some just want a couple pieces of simple information. Some want a laundry list of information.
Right.
Some of them are as specific as the the THC warning label has to look this certain way in this certain state. It's got to look this certain way in another state. And that's the kind of stuff, if you're coming up with a business in that particular realm and you plan on shipping across state lines, or you want to understand what's going on in your state, you've got to know that stuff, because otherwise your product might get turned right back around. You might get slapped with a fine, and your company might be out of business in no time.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So I think that regulation aspect also, any business you're in where there's a heavy amount of regulation that requires very specific labeling, that's the kind of stuff that, like, if you're able to manage and effectively manage your label printing and stay on top of exactly what's supposed to go on every barcode and every label, depending on if it's going to this state or this type of industry or that type of industry, that stuff is so important to be able to manage.
And you know what? The cannabis and healthcare, I think, are just bellwethers for other industries. I mean, right? We've talked about how society really is kind of demanding to have that information.
We want info. We want to know
100%.
what our stuff is, where it came from.
Absolutely. They want to know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Did this come from a field in wherever, Wisconsin, or if it was food or what, even if it was manufactured goods, where did it come from, right?
Just think about, like, how many times have you ever looked at, like, the ingredients label for something you're reading, and 90% of the stuff that you're reading, you're like, I don't even understand what this is.
We can't even say it.
Monosodium glutamate, blah, blah, blah.
Well, a guy like you that's good at pronouncing is not bad. Me, I'm flubbing it up every time.
I can pronounce it, but that doesn't mean I know what it is. So, I think that's the idea. I think a lot of these, especially a lot of these startup companies, these pop-ups are like, they'll talk about, like, hey, check out our label. Our label is simplified. It's got 6 ingredients in it, and you will be able to read and identify what every single one of those ingredients are. That's the kind of stuff that creates a great message for you and your company.
Good point. Yeah.
Well, then let's get to the heart of the order here, which is obviously that BarTender is the kind of the product to help make this happen. Your 2022 version is on the way. I know you guys regularly update BarTender, which I think is what makes it one of the things that makes it stand out, I think, in the industry, and as a great product to use, is you're always staying on top of new ways to build on and improve and meet whatever the moment is. So what is going to be new in this new edition, and how are you guys continuing to support VARs and their customers with their printing needs?
Just before I answer this, I want to go back to what we're just talking about, traceability. One of the things we didn't talk about was in the food industry. And we're seeing in Europe a concept called Natasha's Law, which is putting all the ingredients. And we're starting to see that requirement in the US, right? So traceability, all that information, you can't fit it onto a sandwich package, right? So you've got to have something like Gs1 Digital Link. Talking about BarTender 2022, I am really excited about this product because it has a feature set really for everyone, right? And people say, what do you mean it's got features for everyone? It's got performance improvements for all customers, right? We're improving our database support. We're expanding our cloud deployment capabilities. We've got some initiatives that are really going to reduce IT costs, and we're improving security. So they're the themes. And very quickly after that, we're improving our mobile printing. What we've done, if you're looking at feature concepts, we have a new print portal that is now extended. So we've had a web interface for our enterprise edition for many, many years. This web interface is now extended across the product line. What does that mean? That means if you've got several workstations in your warehouse that are using BarTender, instead of installing BarTender at each individual workstation and connecting them to your main server, you now just need to point and click to your respective web link, right? So that's print portal capabilities for everyone. And then another thing that we've done is we've updated and redesigned Print Station. So Print Station was a set of features and tools that you could use within the product to certain information populates, make certain decisions, and then print a label, right? Check the label is there correctly. We've streamlined this. We've improved its performance. And this is really important because we've also put a modern responsive user interface. So that means you can put it on smaller devices, tablets, etc., without any problems, and it will just resize itself. We've also come out with a new SAP connector for the SAP HANA databases. But probably the most exciting thing is our new REST API. BarTender has been known for its integrations, the way it integrates with your ERP system, whether it be SAP, Oracle, Epicor, Infor, for example, and of course, Dynamics, whether it be the older versions of Dynamics or Dynamics 365 and Business Central, which are the cloud, right? And we're known in the industry for having the best integration tools. That's our competitive advantage. But we are launching industry first a REST API. What does that mean? A REST API makes it easier to integrate, it adds security, and it's much simpler if you need to do some development to your warehouse management system or your manufacturing execution system to get the information. If you need to do some specific development to put it onto a mobile device, the REST APIs allow you to do that. It's just the modern way of doing that. And one of the things that we've done with this new REST API, which, by the way, has been available for download since November of last year, so you can actually use it today, test it, etc. The REST API is the modern integration methodology, meaning it's easier to use, it's faster, quicker, cheaper, right? All the key things. But most importantly, we made the decision to use global standards when it comes to certain interfaces, right? So it's not proprietary. We're using technologies such as YAML and other technologies out there that are publicly available, that so people can rest assured that this is not something that's super secret, right? Everything we're doing is around improving the quality, improving the efficiency, making it easier, compliance, that type of thing. So that's what's coming in BarTender 2022. But more importantly, and I'm going to announce it first here, and no one else is going to know, we are launching pretty quickly afterwards a new mobile printing solution, right? And this is going to be really great. You know, there's companies out there upgrading their tablets. They've got their workforces in their vans and they need to print. Bluetooth printing from BarTender in the mobile environment. We're super excited.
There you go. Breaking
That's
news on
pretty
the
cool.
TEConnect podcast.
Yeah,
We don't
I
get to do
love
that
it.
too often. I like it.
Let's go back to that REST API. I agree with you. I mean, that is so key moving forward. It's a good move from that perspective, from a BarTender kind of moving in that direction, because you're right. You have to be able to integrate into some ERP systems and stuff like that. So when they talk about formats such as YAML and JSON, you know, these are languages that, you know, can enable that, and it's unlocking a lot of the features within BarTender, right, Matt? I mean, once you got the API set up, now you can integrate a lot of those, an extensive amount of actions that you could fire through BarTender using the UI. Now it's just happening through the API, right?
Absolutely. We've got the API. We've got a .NET API today. We've got other integration methods that people can choose from. This is just modernizing everything. Okay, this is the way people integrate. If they have, for an example, Epicor Cloud, Dynamics 365, the cloud, right? You want to use REST APIs, RESTful APIs. It's the way to communicate, right? And Dean, you are absolutely correct. All the 64 actions or whatever it is that are available in the BarTender integration toolset today, 99% of those are already in the new REST API that it was available last November, right? And of course, security is really important. And when we launched BarTender 2022 in April, we're improving that security, and it's going to have the improved security not only on the REST API, but in some of our other technologies.
Very nice. And then I love the mobile aspect of it. You know, when
That's
you think
very
about
cool.
when we talk about mobile all the flipping time around here, right? Like everything's mobilizing.
Right.
Of course, print is one of those things. That last mile delivery. Oh, wait, we need to put this label on it before the final delivery happens, or things of that nature. Of course, that's a nice, brilliant move there as well, enabling those folks that have the tablets and the mobile devices that can deliver right then and there.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
So again, you heard it here first. Coming soon. BarTender 2022 coming in April. As always, you know, you guys, I love that you guys do this with every release. There's preview options available. So if customers are interested, you know, you can send them to their site, talk to your BlueStar account manager about what's going on with BarTender. And I also love your website is graded. helping businesses understand like
Oh, man.
what they need. Like I love that
Absolutely.
you have these nice little decision trees of, tell us like, are you doing this, X, Y, Z, what's going on in your business, and helping very quickly. I'm sure it's useful for our VARs and for our BlueStar folks as well to be able to narrow down like which of your products is going to be the one that they're going to need.
In all seriousness, they do have a lot of resources. Like if you're a POS reseller that is getting into the back of house, warehouse, know, that you want to start getting into that world in a meaningful way, all right? They do. They have a lot of resources on their website. In fact, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't go to. They've got little guides that are there, a lot of good stuff to help enable you so that you can make that sale.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah.
So, all right, well, hey, before we finish up here and get to our recurring segments, I want to, as always, thank our sponsors for the show. So we've got Datalogic, Elo, Epson, Honeywell, Intel, and Zebra. I still am getting that right every time.
Every time.
And thank you so much for your support of the show. And thanks so much for Seagull for sponsoring this particular episode and lending us Matt to talk to for the day. Hey, as always, if you have thoughts about the show, if there are topics you want to hear about, if you have questions, you want us to get you in touch with somebody that was on the show, reach out to us. You can always find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up with, first of all, our value to the VAR segment. This is where we kind of like to give a little bit of a takeaway for our VAR audience of this conversation, something you can go and do now. So, Matt, I'll let you kick this off here. What do you think VARs should be looking for or asking about in order to determine if an enterprise print solution is going to be the right thing for their customers?
One of the greatest opportunities for the VAR is to realize that we have a sales team that is not just focused on the partner. We can do the selling for you. Let me give you an example. We had a BlueStar reseller last year, 2021, sell to a company with 60 plus locations, a couple of printers and one of our solutions, because that's what they knew, right? I do not expect most resellers to know our product in depth, right? And so we're here to help you. In this case, we started looking at all these small systems that were being purchased, and we reached out to the reseller. We talked to them. They brought us to the customer. In actual fact, what the customer needed was something completely different. They just didn't know it was available, right? And the reseller sold what they knew. So if you have an opportunity, reach out to us. We're happy not to just talk to you. We'll talk to the customer on your behalf. We'll have you in those phone calls, webinars, etc. all the way. It's your customer, but we're here to help you be successful. I think from a VAR perspective, we need to realize that VARs bring reach. Our resellers are really important from the reach, their contacts, etc. But we can't expect everyone to know everything. So reach back to us to let us help you be successful. I think that is one of the key critical things, right? And then if you're looking at what to ask, the most important question, people say, oh, you need a printer. Ask them the question, what are you planning to print? How much are you planning to print? And how are you going to design and manage those labels? That's sort of like that starting point. And then from there, once they say, oh, we don't know how we're going to design the labels, you know that you've got a BarTender solution that can immediately be used, right? And we've got very low value solutions and very extremely enterprise. When I say low value, low priced, you know that there's a solution for them. But if you struggle with asking in depth because you're not familiar with the solutions and how label print management solutions are used, come and talk to us, because it's about value, right? But also the second thing here is ask them what are their longer term plans, right? Ask them if they're pain points. Some customers have to put certain packaging onto goods they're delivering, right? And their biggest pain point is getting approval from their customer that the label they're using meets the customer requirements, right? So that's a key. Or what about inbound goods? What are we doing to ensure that your suppliers are labeling what you need in a correct manner, right? And if you're using RFID, think about how can label management software be used with your RFID, etc. So that's the starting point. Is asking a series of questions. And not only do we have that website, we actually have a lot of questions that we provide our resellers with so they can become more effective at selling label solutions.
Yeah. And actually, you go to seagullscientific.com/resources/labeling-guide. That's where you go to start
I'll
your
drop that
journey.
link in the show notes.
Right? Because, no, seriously, I mean, what we love about Seagull or BarTender is they are channel friendly, right? Matt talked about it, kicking it off. What is it? 99.9% of your sales go through the channel.
99.99%.
There you go.
You missed that extra 0.09. Yeah.
And two things that fit very well within the BlueStar ecosystem. One is we have an extremely effective renewals program where we provide the resellers with an opportunity to go back each year to the customer. But secondly, and what's probably not well known, is we sell BarTender on an annual subscription basis, right? So if your customer's not sure about this, instead of investing everything, invest for the year. See if this makes sense for you, that type of thing. And so we're starting to pick up momentum with this subscription concept. It's only annual today, but as we improve billing systems and renewal systems, you can see the concept of what's going to happen with labeling catch up with the rest of the world, so to speak, with different pricing concepts, etc.
There's that recurring revenue again, John.
Exactly. You know,
setting it up.
It is. I love that you guys have this attitude of like, hey, we're here in the channel, and it's the whole idea of why we have this channel and why our VARs operate within it, because you want to have these partnerships. And I think Seagull and the BarTender product in particular are a perfect example of a very specific partner that you can draw on for a very specific problem, that knows their stuff and is, has figured out exactly how to accomplish what your customers are trying to accomplish. So why wouldn't you lean on them?
Yep. That's it.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, hey, let's wrap up with, as always, our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with You? This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, innovation that has caught our eye, has our attention, makes us fearful for the future of humanity, or maybe hopeful. Fine, that can happen from time to time, too. So, Matt, I'll let you start. What's TEConnecting with you right now?
Looking personally, it's the fitness tracker, okay? I was not a big fan. I was not a big fan of fitness trackers, right? But now it keeps me awake at night wondering how well I'm sleeping, okay? I've got this fitness tracker. I use it all the time. The problem is I could be on stage. I can barely see the watch face, right? And I know I'm being tracked and everything else. But it's really an interesting device because I know when I haven't slept well. But what I want to know is why I haven't slept well. I know when I've slept well, but I want to know why I slept well. Was it deep sleep? What it was? But it's also a really important device because when you're out on the road, you're different time zones, lots of meals, parties, or whatever you're doing, right? Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm not feeling the best. My fitness tracker can confirm that I'm not feeling the best.
Yeah, you got 200 steps yesterday. So yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about fitness trackers.
I'm sorry that wasn't just...
No. That's a good one. We have brought that up. The sleep thing. I know, John, you were getting into the sleep thing. Or does your bed do the
I have the sleep number bed, yeah. So I'm not doing it with the watch, but I do it with the bed, yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's too often tells me that I didn't sleep properly. And like my wife makes jokes about it, like, you decide whether you're having a good or bad day sometimes, when that bed tells you that you did. And like, well, if it gives me a bad score, then I probably slept bad, and therefore I should be cranky, right? So.
Yeah, and then you're going to need that espresso maker, right, Matt, that you were showing us before we kicked off here, to kind of wake you up a little bit.
I've got this very fancy espresso maker. It's from the manufacturer Bialetti, which is Italian, right? And Valentine's Day's coming up because I just purchased it a month ago. Not very happy with the Valentine's cups, but it is what it is. It's a fantastic little espresso maker. I think it's more for show than anything else. And you go through all this work, grinding your coffee beans, putting the coffee beans in, getting the water to the right height. And then you have this cup, and it pours out on both sides, and it gives you about this much espresso. So then you've got to put the 2 cups together.
Yeah, for those of you listening to the audio, it was like milliliter, just a little bit.
yeah.
You know, yeah.
So
Not a lot in
You
there.
just want that quick little shot of like
Okay.
caffeine, like, just get jazzed up for the day.
It's so European. Yeah,
it
right.
is.
All right,
Whereas we're chugging like 15
exactly.
cups a day.
Red Bulls and
I
Mountain
don't.
Dews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my Mountain Dew for me. That's back there out of sight right now.
That's a good one, Matt. All right, here's mine.
Okay.
UK researchers smash record for sustaining fusion energy output, producing the equivalent of 11 megawatts over 5 seconds. So I don't know if you saw this, but
I did not.
nuclear fusion, like
Right.
how are we going to feed this need for electricity? You know, when you think about the global need for electricity, it's just the demand is like growing exponentially, right? Especially when you throw in EV cars and stuff like that. So how are we going to do that in a sustainable way?
Right.
Well, you've got fission, which is where you split an atom, and that's kind of dirty, right? You're creating stuff that has tens of thousands of years of radiation,
Right,
not a good thing. Then you have fusion, which is combining, and so that's a technology that really has eluded science. I mean, we know how to do it, but we can't do it efficiently, and a lot of it over time. So this is significant in the sense that they were able to produce this, have this device, I guess. It was at their JET or Jet Laboratory, create energy for 5 seconds and 11 megawatts of power. So it's just like they're starting to refine this whole process that if we can get this down, the good part about here is you don't have the radioactivity and all that. It's almost like this unlimited supply of energy. If we can figure out fusion and how to get it done longer than 5 seconds, we're on a path to something anyway. But
just tell me when they get to 1.21 gigawatts or
okay,
gigawatts, and they can put it in a DeLorean and send me through time, okay? Wasn't that Mr. Fusion? Wasn't that the name of the thing that he put in the Back to the Future movies?
See, we're there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not there
just
yet.
Just drop banana peels and garbage in there, and it just does it for you.
We're still in the megawatts, not the gigawatts.
All
What do you need? Gigawatts?
I think he says gigawatts, isn't it? Yeah. I think
geez.
I don't even know if that's a real thing or not.
Okay.
But 1.21 gigawatts. Yeah.
What's TEConnecting with you?
So we've talked about ghost kitchens before,
Yes.
which is this idea of having a kitchen set up for delivery food that may not even actually be open to the public. It's just in the background cooking stuff up to deliver, or it might be utilizing an existing kitchen from a restaurant or whatever to supply a separate delivery chain as well. Well, now we have dark stores.
Dark stores.
This is for the grocery delivery trend.
What?
And basically, it's the same idea of having a store that is not open to the public, but it has aisles filled up with groceries, so that the Instacarts of the world, and I don't think Instacart uses this, but a lot of these startup companies that are doing localized grocery delivery can go into these little stores and pick from their shelves and grab what they need to fulfill a grocery order.
Gotcha.
The problem with this, though, is that in a lot of places, especially smaller neighborhoods where they're trying to put these things in, they're sticking them into shopping complexes where they might be taking up 3 or 4 different storefronts with these dark stores that don't have any functional use outside of this. So no one's using them, but they're potentially interspersed with local
other
eateries,
retails.
local retailers as well. And it's causing issues and problems because if you think about it, when you go to a strip mall, for instance.
Yeah, I got it.
And if 5 or 6 of the stores there are closed and boarded up.
Right.
You kind of get a bad impression. It doesn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It doesn't lend the best impression to that area and what you expect to get out of it. But also, it doesn't encourage people to come there and then maybe find other, say you stop to get at your favorite little local mom and pop, consignment shop or something in this strip mall.
Yeah.
And there's a pop-up taco stand nearby that you go and eat from. It's all part of this business ecosystem that these little community kind of storefronts love.
So if these dark
together.
stores are taking up all these,
Exactly.
and it just looks like empty space or it's not being utilized. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or obviously you're it's space that a potential, mom and pop store could potentially be using instead. So there's, obviously there's the need for it is there because, we're all interested in this whole, at home on demand delivery thing.
Right.
But there's a kind of a dark side to it that it's creating here that people aren't really appreciating in their local.
There's always a downside, isn't there? Yeah. Even to something like that, using unused space, you would think would be a good thing, right? Well, let's move something in. Well, maybe maybe, okay, so they got to all hang signs outside to say, hey, this is actually a really active space.
Maybe, I don't know.
You can't shop there.
Maybe
but,
sell advertising for the other places there or something.
Yeah.
You know, find some way to lighten it up, or I don't know.
But
Maybe
still stop by the
maybe
vape
still
store
have
next
some
door.
kind of like front office kind of thing that somebody could do something very simple in or whatever, and then the back of it can still be
the
dark
store.
I don't know.
Interesting, dark store. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
That's not the greatest term for you. That
Right,
just sounds like it's something bad anyway. So Ghost Kitchen at least sounds kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
So hey, that's what's tech connecting with us. Matt Brine from Seagull, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks,
we
Matt.
appreciate having you on the show.
Thanks, everyone. Had a great time. Got a great show, and I look forward to this coming out soon.
All right.
Yeah. And hey, until next time, maybe brighten up your store a little bit.
Yeah.
Call it a light store. I don't know.
Hang a sign out front. Make it
That's
look
right,
like
maybe
somebody's
something.
living there. Yeah.
And as always, please stay connected. Purpose-built for point of sale, the ELO E-Series 2 offers a 15.6-inch touchscreen display, Intel's 9th generation Celeron processor, and an integrated expansion hub to connect the peripherals you need. From cash drawers and printers to barcode scanners and payment devices, there is connectivity to cover it all. For added flexibility, the E-Series 2 offers models with Windows 10 or no OS, providing businesses the best solution to customize for their environment, covered by a 3-year warranty. To learn more, contact your BlueStar representative. TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Zebra. Hey, we've spent a lot of time today talking about helping your warehouses modernize with effective print management, but for everything else, Zebra's got you covered. Worldwide, there are approximately 15 million mobile devices using the Windows operating system in warehouses, with an estimated sales potential of $2 billion. Shifting warehouses from Zebra legacy devices to modern Zebra Android mobile technology represents a large business opportunity for Zebra and our channel partners. Outdated technology that means that your warehouse customers just won't be able to keep up with changes like the e-commerce boom, same-day delivery expectations, labor shortages, and Microsoft's end of support for enterprise Windows devices. Let Zebra help you modernize, migrate, and retain your warehouse business with swift, smooth Android devices. Check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar Zebra representative to learn more.